working on this per session.
Percent.
Maliit pa rin yan kasi alam natin na mahal, but it's a start.
10 in a year?
10, you can avail of 10.
Is it a year?
Yeah, so
Just-
roughly one a month, one a month, one session. It can be used for different kinds of therapy, like the speech therapy, the occupational therapy, the consultation, and then ito yung accredited. Yun lang, konti pa lang ang accredited because I guess they have to go through the accreditation process, so baka pwedeng dagdagan kung sino yung meron. So it's in UPPGH, Eastern Visayas Medical Center, and SPMC. Southern Philippines is the one in Davao. So at least may Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao na government. Pero pwede kayo mag-accredit ng private kasi pwede naman, di ba? Pwede kayo mag-accredit ng private.
I was about to say that.
Kaya kasi this will not cover the whole thing eh. Okay. So they know they can accredit, but you know, for a middle income family, malaking tulong na yan. Kasi kahit kumikita yung parent ng 30 or 50,000, nakakabawas pa rin yun dun sa gastos.
If I may, Mr. President, if I may just interject quickly, Mr. President, I think it's commendable, and I'm happy to hear that there is such a program like this. But at the end of the day, the sponsor is correct in ensuring that there would be more accredited centers. But more than that, Mr. President, is the challenge of looking for the right experts to look into it. More therapies, more OTs, more speech therapies, Mr. President, because until now, I believe there's quite a huge gap when you talk about the requirement, Mr. President, for experts and therapists to attend to child development concerns. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. His honor is correct.
And thank you to PhilHealth for volunteering information. But actually, my question was addressed to the DOH. If you can design your budget in such a way that you have a public health program, then you have an amount for the procurement of mental health commodities, 682 million. Can you not design your budget in such a way that you will have a program for the developmental situations or challenges, Mr. President? Itong program yung mental health, gumawa sila eh. Oh. Can they not have also? Can they not help also those short of mental health, but they say developmental situation or condition, Mr. President?
Is it absorbed in their own budget?
Yes. Tama.
So, Mr. President, to be clear, because we only have 96 developmental pediatricians, then the ability also to roll out those programs is a factor. But the hospitals themselves, where these doctors train or practice, have budgets there. So yung nabanggit, so hindi ko pa ho naiisa-isa yan dito. There would be budgets, let's say in PGH, may budget yan. PCMC, may budget yan. So we can pull out those separate budgets. So unlike yung sa DOH na mental health budget na isang lump sum, naka-spread out sa hospitals yung programs depending on the hospital's service offering. So per hospital natin makikita.
But that was mandated by the DOH. We're talking about hospitals, ano ba tawag mo doon? DOH run hospitals, tama?
May occupational therapy.
That means it's a control. It's control. It's a control power of the secretary over the hospital, tama?
Mr. President, to be clear, this is how it works for the developmental PEDS program. So if once diagnosed, i-refer sila, let's say, occupational therapist, speech therapist. So those centers are available in those hospitals. So isa-isahin natin yung hospital to see yung occupational yan, does not only cater to autism, pero lahat ng may developmental, no? they cater to them sa occupational. But again, having said that, your occupational therapy center would also be catering to stroke victims, di ba? So hindi naman yata nakaseparate po yun. It's just that that service and cerebral palsy. So yung service is there. The service is there. And developmental conditions are part of the patients with developmental conditions are part of the patients that receive the services within the hospitals that have those services.
Okay, so we'll just get feedback from our constituents, Mr. President, when they try to avail of the services as we have announced tonight. So tingnan po natin.
And DOH is committing to us that they will expand those services, Your Honor. But I am also telling DOH that your ability to expand will be limited by the services, the equipment and the infrastructure, pwede magdagdag, pwede maghanap ng pondo. Pero yung tao, that will take time. So kindly work with us very closely because we have fully funded every year the Doktor para sa Bayan, and the intention is to also fully fund the allied professionals that we need to complete the whole wellness services that need to be made available to the Filipinos. So we need the input coming from DOH. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. President. At least we have, at least tonight we focused on the topic. So the DOH family is attention has been brought to focus on that topic. Talking about the same public health program, the same 1.7 billion pesos. From that amount, the DOH will use 1.02 billion pesos on cancer commodities. Okay. How can this program be accessed by our constituents, Mr. President? Kasi kung marinig na, alam mo, prevalent na rin po ang cancer sa population. Marami pong problema na ang cancer. So when they hear that you have a public health program, you have 1 billion pesos to be spent on cancer commodities,
Yeah.
how? Yun ang mechanics po. How can the concerned parties avail of the benefits of the
These are
program?
just the medicines, yes. Pero yung 1.0 is purely the medicine. Yung iba. Yung ibang services and covered yun. Wala dyan. Okay, but I get it. Okay, Mr. President, the 1.02 billion is for cancer medicines and commodities. This is 61 cancer medicines for 31 access sites. And this is projected to be expanded to 34 access sites with target beneficiaries of 33,802 estimated service users. But we just like to add, Mr. President, that the cancer control programs is not just medicine,
Mhm.
but it also includes surgery surgery and radiation therapy, Mr. President, which is an addition to the 1.02 billion budget for medicines that was mentioned. Mr. President, 80% of cancer are bulk forming and amenable to surgery and radiation. So I recall at my very first meeting with the secretary, he discussed this with me because you are a surgeon, right? Yeah. So he is a surgeon. Hindi, kasi you're many things eh. Kaya sinisigurado kong tama yung masabi ko. He's a surgeon and very familiar with the needed interventions. And he was explaining to me at that time, not now, that yun nga, with early detection, surgery, radiation, a lot of this would be life-saving interventions, Mr. President.
Sige po. And those are available in the DOH-run hospitals. Ganun ba yun? Ganun, okay.
Yes,
How
Mr.
about
President.
PhilHealth? Does PhilHealth have any cancer packages, Mr. President?
Excited po silang i-report. So, antayin natin, Mr. President. So, Mr. President,
Galing nga eh.
the Z benefit package rate for cancer for acute lymphocytic, do I say that right? Lymphocytic, lymphoblastic leukemia, it's 500,000. For breast cancer, it's 100,000. Prostate cancer is 100,000. Colon cancer, 150 to 300,000. Rectum cancer, 150 to 400,000. And cervical cancer is 120 to 175,000. Yun lang, wala yung iba. Yun, meron pa.
Good, we have.
Ba, Mr. President,
Yes,
but to
thank
give you an
thank
idea.
Yes, to give us an idea na meron.
Okay na. Yes, Mr.
That is
President.
what is important po na during the budget process, malaman po ng taong bayan saan
Meron.
pumupunta ang pera nila, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, since we mentioned some DOH-run hospitals, is the Mariano Marcos Memorial Hospital and Medical Center one such DOH-run hospital? Is that
Yes, it is, Mr. President.
siguro, just to bring to the attention of the Secretary na there's a mention in the COA report about its very low utilization rate, Mr. President, 38.3%.
Yes, Mr. President, we are aware, but we'd like to point out this historically. And normally, when the COA makes its report, it's not yet towards the end of the year, so the utilization rates tends to be lower. But by the end of the year, they have a good utilization rate, Mr. President.
Was that how, are we talking about the same time period? The COA report is a 2022 COA report. So,
Well, I'm talking about October 2023. The
2023,
utilization,
sige.
the obligation is 80% and the disbursement rate is 77%. Do we have the year before?
okay na po yun. So apparently
But at least
the
at least we
hospital
know that,
already,
yes, Mr. President, thank you.
took into account the COA finding and addressed the COA finding to make sure na hindi maulit sa next year. Apa. So, but PhilHealth is here. Meron kasing phone in naman question po na the member cannot avail of PhilHealth benefits unless you spend at least one night in the hospital. So,
Yes. Yeah. So, Mr. President, that has been the situation from the very start because the benefit is an inpatient benefit. That is why, Mr. President, for many years, the goal was to be able to roll out the outpatient benefits. Kaya po nagkakaroon din ng issue, I'll just mention it, na
tama yun.
I don't know how rampant it is, but there would be times that a doctor would just insist that the patient would stay and admitted para nga maka-avail. So that is the sad reality of when we start a program, it usually is a inpatient program, and that's why it's very important that we are able to roll out the outpatient program, Mr. President.
Okay. So,
Ah,
meron na?
but you'll avail of that. There's a different emergency package. Mr. President, they are now developing a package for emergency cases to address a lot of incidents where hindi naman talaga kailangan mag-overnight, no? Talagang emergency case. I'm glad you're developing that finally. Kasi ang tagal ko nang
Kasi
narinig yung
from-
issue na yan.
From experience,
Initiative of our Secretary, Mr. President, thank you after all these years. 2 decades na po akong nag-aantay niyan.
overnight, ano sabihin nun?
19 years to be exact.
Well, from experience, Mr. President, sometimes nag-overnight naman tayo sa hospital, but we are not an emergency case.
No, Mr.
So
President,
what's the
we
point
are,
of Mr. Why, and it is not the law which requires the benefits to be extended only to inpatient, di ba? Siguro yun lang yung program na ginawa ng PhilHealth. So
really requires it.
is it the law? Is it the law which requires that it must be an inpatient care, meaning to say one night in the hospital before benefits can be extended?
So there are pwede na sa emergency.
Yun na nga, bakit nga? Sayang.
Mr. President, it is in the law, itong inpatient claims, no? But to be clear, there are claims ever since naman that are considered outpatient na nako-cover naman dyan. You
Okay.
don't have to be an inpatient. Can we mention a few? Because I think that's what the minority floor leader would like to share with the public. Pagka kunyari,
But it's not only that na meron, but has it been communicated clearly to both the hospital and the public na meron palang ganun? Because reaction po yun ng isang constituent natin na nagre-react sa ating exchange ngayon eh.
Mm-mm.
Na
I think, Mr. President, it's important that we distinguish and perhaps yung, kaya nga ako I'm a supporter of health promotion. Ewan ko kasama yan sa budget ng PhilHealth na alam nga naman ng tao. Kasi ngayon, pinapaliwanag po sa akin yung mga kunyari suture, kasama yan. Pero pag kunyari ikaw ay inuubo-ubo doon, eh pauuwiin ka talaga ng ano, ng hindi kasama, 'di ba? Walang kasama yung gamot. Kaya resetahan ka lang, pero uwi ka na wala kang ano. O example, ako na magtatanong ng example, hinika ka doon o pag tinreat ka doon ng may ano tawag doon? Nebulizer. Ano 'yon? Covered? O walang claim 'yon, Mr. President. Yung
Bakit?
nebulizer ina-asthma kasi nga it's not
yes.
it's not considered an inpatient eh. So, pero possible na emergency yun kasi 'di ba pag hinika ka. But dinedevelop pa lang yung program. Dinedevelop pa lang, Mr.
No,
President.
we will limit it to inpatient if it is because of some legal mandate. So can the PhilHealth give us the section and the RA number of what this law is na ganyan?
Yes, we can provide, Mr. President. Just give them a second to pull out the law.
And yet, in spite of that fact, the PhilHealth is developing an outpatient program or packages, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr.
Are they
President,
developing it?
matagal na. Taon-taon natin to
Hindi,
pinag-uusapan.
meron na. Meron na.
Meron na, pero as far as yeah, it's in the it's required by the UHC law that this is rolled out, and this is not yet because it just started, no. So I remember last year pilot, so medyo pilot stage pa rin. They now have the consulta package. There's primary care service, which is consultation and case management for any condition, preventive health service, assistance in accessing services in partner facilities, referral to specialty and higher level of care. Then they have 13 laboratory services. Ito yung mga CBC, urinalysis, pap smear, etc., blood sugar, etc. And then 21 kinds of drugs and medicines are now available in this consulta package. But currently, this is only available in 2,428 accredited providers. And I'm quite familiar with this, Your Honor, because this representation has been urging DOH and PhilHealth to roll it out on a pilot basis para they can find that sweet spot. Kasi may gastos to, Mr. Presidente. So it's a question of how much does it cost per patient to maintain and to sustain this program?
Sige po. Pero ang dental concerns, hindi kasali sa PhilHealth? Dental concerns. Wala pa po. Medyo ano tayo dyan I think we should address that. The dental health, the oral health, no? Oral health of our population, Mr. President.
Wala pa. Pero ano yung chances na maano? It's not yet included, Mr. President.
Included? PhilHealth has packages for
No, it's not
it's not, okay.
yet.
Okay. The non-inclusion of dental health concerns or oral health concerns is because of a legal impediment or hindi lang po nagawa ng package ng PhilHealth?
Cover na natin yun, ma'am. Yung may
Ano sabi ng law? Bawal din?
extraction, hindi pa, ma'am. De-develop pa rin tayo. Covered siya, ma'am, nung...
Actually, marami tayong problema tayo.
Pero yung ano ba, ang tawag doon, yung magpapaklining ka, ganon, wala.
Cover natin, ma'am, sa...
We will sa consulta. Okay. So currently, Mr. President, the only thing that is covered is extraction with suturing. So in other words, kung nabunutan ka na hindi naman kailangan tahiin, bahala ka sa bayad mo. So siguraduhin mo duguin ka para makasama yung ano. Hindi, ganun eh. Para maintindihan ng
Yep.
tao, di ba?
Yeah, but I think that should be akala ko ang direction natin is ano na preventive or overall
Yes.
health maintenance.
So actually,
So,
Mr. President, that's a good
natin
observation.
pabayaan mag-hemorrhage muna bago
course.
bago
No, actually, Mr.
charge
President,
up.
dito sa konsulta, ngayon makakasama dito, Mr. President, yung check-up. Sa konsulta. Konsulta is the outpatient. So this is really preventive.
Yes, if we can extend the programs to consulta na, can we not extend it to dental concerns?
No, as I was saying, Mr. President, yung check-up ng dental check-up will be part of consulta. So what His Honor is saying, and I suppose it's I mean, honestly, antayin mo bang bulok na yon para pagbunot, duguin, para makasama, di ba? Parang yun nga yung point ni Minority Floor Leader na, ano, di ba? Parang,
Sige,
ano nga-
anyway, that this be just a challenge to the PhilHealth, Mr. President. Unless they tell us nga that there's something wrong with the law, it's the law which prevents them from using their imagination to come up with packages which help our people, Mr. President. Then, balik ang bola sa amin, we amend the law. Pero kung hindi, the ball is in your court and just use your imagination. Paano tayo? We're out here to help eh. And I think marami may problema with oral health or dental health, Mr. President. Ano ba tawag mo nun? Oral health? Dental health? Oral health? Pares na yun? Hindi ka naman dentista. So, okay sa dentist. Ano tama?
So sa DOH to, parang vaccination. Oo, okay. So where is this available? Through public hospital?
Punta na ako sa COVID na. Tapos na. COVID na tayo. May vaccine. COVID.
So actually, Mr. President, to be clear, it's not just PhilHealth that has initiatives for oral health, also DOH. So they have a budget of 515 million for fluoride varnishing, glass ionomer for art, ano yun? Pang-cleaning lahat yan. Okay. So anyway, just to be clear, the conditions that are being
Ang tanong na lang natin.
addressed are yung nga yung the glass ionomer is for restorative treatment using minimal instrumentation and low resource setting. And then anyway, it's kind of technical, Mr. President, yung
Sige pa.
yung treatments,
Sige.
but the point is they have 515
Million.
million available in health centers. And I recall, Mr. President, that a lot of LGUs, because
Health center.
His Honor will recall that healthcare is supposed to be also devolved. I recall in my visits to the countryside, there are quite a few LGUs that have already included free dental packages. So this is not a PhilHealth reimbursable. This is a service of either DOH or the LGU. Parang vaccine po, di ba? Hindi naman ho yan PhilHealth eh. It's a, how do you call it? It's a national program, Mr. President.
National program administered by the
DOH.
Yes, yes. Correct.
Oral health, Mr. President.
Sige po, basta na-announce natin ngayong gabi that there is a program, it's in the barangay health centers, in the form of commodities din ito? Or is a
And
service?
Services, opo.
Services?
Oo.
Our barangay health centers are equipped with dental chairs, Mr. President?
Yeah, so Mr. President, itong program ng DOH includes prevention. This is the routine, preventive, and essential curative care. So ito yung check-up. And then screening. Ito yung oral health screening integrated, yun nga, dun sa check-up. Yeah, that's it, Mr.
Sige pa,
President.
okay. At least na-announce natin ngayong gabi. Ngayon, I see Dr. Sarati is here of the FDA, so ibigay ko na lang po sa kanya yung mga reklamo na tanggap ng opisina ko. But basically, it's the same as last year's list, Dr. Sarate. So, but it's not, I will have to admit, it's not as passionate as last year, yung reklamo. So, maybe there have been some improvements. So, it's the same nature of complaints, but not as passionate last year. Grabe yung text na natanggap ko. May mga kasali pa mga curse words eh. Ngayon wala po tayong natanggap na ganun. So I hope that's an indication that there have been some improvements, Mr. President.
Mr. President, the Director General was saying to me that they are in the process of digitalization.
As of now po, ma'am, we are already 90.
Delay lang.
But
ano?
the problem with the old system is the payment system. But we are addressing it right now.
So here po, if you open it.
Payment nyo, bakit?
There are two types, e-portal and e-services.
Oh.
Those e-portal, magbabayad sila sa land para mag-dito
Oh.
Pero if you are in the new services, may automatic. So lahat ng mga portal, may ko na po sa e-services para automatic. So
Okay.
it's more
So it's the payment system, Mr. President, that they are still working on, as it's not yet that user-friendly. Actually, I just want to add to that, even though it's not the question of His Honor. Until I think a month ago, actually, my brother was trying to access the FDA site, and there's a notice there, an advisory that says, what? Under maintenance. No, but wasn't there yeah, it's only available 9 to 5. And takang-taka po kami kasi ano ba yun? Parang araw-araw after 5 p.m. sarado yung digital portal nyo. And that was there for like 6 months.
Ma'am,
So this is not the question of the minority floor leader. This is the question to myself.
Yes, yes.
we're migrating the system.
Because I'm not aware of the.
Ngayon lang ako nakarinig ng ganun eh, na 9 to 5 lang.
Kasi po, we're migrating to the e-services po. And like the kalit sa
Shucks, in-access na yung website.
I making known that concern kasi I'm just saying I have never ever encountered, I don't know if any of you have, a site that tells you na open lang siya na 9 to 5. Wala pa akong nakitang website na yun. It's possible na sabihin sa inyo na ang aming ano tawag doon, our
Officers.
our office hours are 9
Operating
to
hours,
5 or our personnel will only get back to you at 9 to 5. Pero to be able to punch in something, never ko po narinig na 9 to 5 lang yung ganon. So I just want to put that here on record kasi yun nga, never ever, and pati yung staff ko, pina-check ko, wala ho kami naririnig na ganon, na buong, yung hindi ka man lang makapag-submit ng data after 5. Digital nga lang yun. Kahit not, it shouldn't be that difficult to be able, ang explanation is sa gabi daw nagtatrabaho mga tao, naintindihan ko yun. Pero there's got to be a way that you can submit things even after 5 digitally.
To receive the information. Yeah. Tama po. Ganun po.
Anyway, let's give the floor
Yeah,
back
9
to
to
the
5. So
minority
sabi ko,
floor leader.
8 hours lang yun. So 16 hours of the day wasted, although you're available online. So,
Yeah.
anyway, I adopt the question of the sponsor
Thank
as my
you.
own.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So anyway, Dr. Sarate, yung complaint talaga is actually the delay. So please find a way.
Yeah.
Just like you think like you're a court, reklamo sa court system delay. So ganun po.
Asan na yung letter?
So
With the permission of the minority floor leader, may question lang si Senator
yes, of course.
Legarda. Banggitin ko na rin kasi it's also about yung tungkol sa, alam niyo na yan? Alam niyo na ba? Sa, yun. Anong pangalan nun? The drug is called, correct, pero may application na ba sila?
for ongoing application.
Mga kailan yan?
Waiting lang po ng mga
Bakit si LTFRB kita na?
Is the generic name is remdesivir or? Magkaiba. Bakit? Sabi nga niya, say it again. Hindi, ano nga?
Remdesivir.
Molnupiravir.
Amondopir.
Pero ang letter na pinadala ni Senator Loren is remdesivir. So pareho yan nasama dun sa pagtanggal ng emergency? Oo. Anyway, so I explained to Senator Loren kasi sabi niya maraming pulmo doctors na lumapit sa kanya na the process must be followed, and that is the registration with the FDA. So we will make appeals to the FDA to expedite, without cutting corners and ensuring safety, the registration of these products. That's why I was asking kung may pending applications. Meron naman.
Of course, for the facilitation of registration for oral, for the COVID oral medications.
Okay.
So now the molnupiravir has for application on.
So, ongoing yung evaluation nitong mga medicines. Kasi nga kahit na na-declare na natin na the COVID pandemic is over, but there are still cases, and for those who are immunocompromised, the doctors need to provide this kind of medicines, at paubos na daw po yung supply. So, would
Thank
His
you.
Honor like to adopt that question?
Yes,
as well?
I make the question my own, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Because my next topic is about COVID-19 actually.
Okay.
That's my last topic,
Okay.
Mr. President. Pero before we leave the FDA, can the FDA help us or the Secretary help us? Because we've been studying the budget of the DOH. Where can we find the total amount in the DOH budget which is appropriated for the FDA? And how much is it?
Ah.
Hindi pa namin makita.
Oo. We have that, Mr. President.
Ayan, kunin niyo. And if we could, it could be also categorized by expense class, yung PSMO,
Expense class.
if possible, Mr. President.
Yung ano, PS,
Oo.
ganon.
Yan po. Yung appropriation sa
Ay,
automatic
note mo.
appropriation.
So, anong babasahin ko?
Ito PS is 499.24 million.
And then,
And then yung po at automatic nila is 1.1 million.
499 plus 119.
Apo.
Plus, that's plus. So the new appropriation, Mr. President, is 499.74 million. And then there is an automatic appropriation which comes from the income collection from fees, fines, royalties, and other charges. And that is 1.19 billion for a total of 1.69 billion.
Is the budget of...
Sorry, Mr. President. Can I ask our SecGen to check the aircon? Biglang uminit po. Thank you. Thank you.
Section, please, or we'll ask the Sergeant at Arms
No, sila kasi.
to check the airplane.
Thank you. Anyway, please proceed, Mr. President.
Yes, is the FDA budget also subdivided into expense class, Mr. President, like PS, MOE, CO?
I have asked for it, Mr. President.
Expense class ba tawag?
Pero ma'am, meron po kami.
Correct, oo. Asan dyan?
PSN.
So, Mr. President, saan tayo sa, ano basahin ko? The PS, Mr. President, is 194,797,000, and the MOOE is 101,713,000, Mr. President.
Hindi po ba, ano yun? Akala ko 1.6 yung billion ng budget po nila.
Kasi automatic appropriation.
Hindi, automatic appropriation yun. So for the new appropriation, ano lang po sila 180, ay, tama ba?
499, I think, if I remember correctly.
100, ay, Bureau of, sorry, nag-move yung aking screen. Napunta na po ako sa Bureau of Quarantine. 499, 499.74, Mr. President. So that was the.
Did it add up?
I'm checking, Mr. President. Parang hindi eh.
Hindi nga, Mr.
It
President.
didn't seem so.
Sila pa po ba yung sa...
Ito pinakamahirap na budget.
Walang CO. Walang CO yun. Yung binasa ko.
Tapos yung 1.1C na automatic appropriation para sa...
Binigay po kanina is PS ang quadrilateral 499.
Ah,
And then yung CO po kasi is
hindi. Ba't nagbasa ako ng MOE? Ano ba na ba?
Wala nga. Bakit?
Mr. President, I'm sorry. For FDA, the PS is 499,742,000. Walang MOE and walang CO.
Tapos nasa automatic.
And then under the automatic appropriations nila kinukuha yung
Correct.
para sa kanilang MOOE. And then may CO kayo?
What is,
Okay.
so CO will be taken from the automatic appropriation?
Yes, Mr.
And what would be the amount of the CO?
Ano yun? Asan?
675.
675 million, Mr. President.
Explains it. So, Mr. President, ito na, siguro last topic na lang po ito. I've read in the news that some countries are undertaking a review of their COVID-19 response. What is the sentiment or the stand of the Department of Health on this subject matter, Mr. President? Should the Republic of the Philippines undertake a review of our COVID-19 response?
Definitely, Mr. President, that's the answer of this representation. And the secretary is also saying that they have already. And the details are,
Already a pandemic preparedness and response plan that was crafted by the interagency task force.
yeah, I know,
That's
but
already-
ang tanong is
How much did we spend? Sa yung bakuna? Ilan ang namatay? Ilan ano? So, tanong, i-remind mo ko sa mga tanong.
Any questions?
well, Mr. President, yes, definitely they have done it. And
They've done it.
yes, they have done it.
Is there already a final report?
Submitted to the Office of the President?
It has been submitted to the Office of the Executive Secretary.
Okay. Only to that office. Doon pa lang. And limited, yung kanyang publication ay limited lamang doon sa opisina yun. Nobody else has accessed that. No other office or agency has accessed the final report.
Mr. President, this representation offers to file a resolution and then invite DOH to present those findings in that report, Mr. President.
The
with
report is not top secret, so it can be shared with with the Senate itself, Mr. President.
Yes,
At the earliest possible time.
yes.
Okay, so good. Because does the report contain the total amount that the Republic of the Philippines spent to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic? Is it there?
It was not a financial
No
review.
financial.
It's a response without,
Okay.
yeah. the financial.
The effect of our COVID-19 response to our total national debt, is it there? Wala din.
Wala siguro, Mr. President, kasi nga, it's a technical review, Mr. President.
The total number of vaccine vials or shots that we procured
We have, Mr.
as part of
President.
our, okay,
We have
the
that.
total number of vaccines that we accepted as donation. We have
Meron, Mr. President.
the total amount of the vaccines that were wasted. Is that also reflected in the report, Mr. President?
More or less, Mr. President, lahat po yun available.
May I know the vaccine wastage, Mr. President? Total amount, if not in the number of vials, Mr. President.
Sa hearing na lang natin na-find out yung effects sa finances, sa gastos, inutang, pautang. Kasi billion yan trillion siguro.
Mr. President, my short response will include a short explanation. I'm already foreseeing the follow-up questions, so His Honor can sit down. Mr. President, the vaccine wastage, or the COVID vaccine wastage is 49,730,000 doses, no? The reasons for this wastage are expiration beyond shelf life. Napakarami po nun kasi nga yung binanggit ko na 49 million 49.7 million doses. Of that, it's 38.54 ang expired or beyond shelf life. I would like to emphasize, Mr. President, that napaka-iksi talaga ng shelf life ng COVID vaccines. 6 months po yun. And then, yung mga na-donate pa ho is 3 months. So, it's really, it's actually, meron pa nga daw 1 month lang ang shelf life. So, it's something that, in a way, I don't know if it's correct to say it, but in a way, it does not surprise the experts because with a shelf life that short, talagang ma-e-expirean po tayo ng ganon.
Of the 49.7 million doses wasted, mga 500 pesos per vial siguro should be a safe amount to put there, no, Mr. President? So of the 49.7, doon lang tayo sa pieces, million. How many were donated, Mr. President? And then yung balance, I will assume we procured, no? So yun po yung direction ng aking katanungan, Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, 155.8 million doses were procured, and then 95.9 million doses were donated. So,
Ilan po yung donated?
parang 2:3 halos, no?
Ilan po?
3:2 pala. 95.9 million doses were donated.
Okay. So yun yung totality. But of the wasted, can we determine sa 49.7 of the wasted, how many were donated and how many were procured? Kasi yung sa donation, meron tayong excuse na 1 month, 3 months. I'm sure we did not procure such a short lifespan of vaccines, Mr. President. May minimum naman yata tayong lifespan ng ating procurement, Mr. President.
Oh, pero donation pa rin. Hindi, pero donated pa. Pag si private, donated pa rin. Diba? Donated pa rin to. Private na nag-donate. So,
25 billion.
26. Oo.
Total is
No. I was about to say 26%. Tama?
27.37.
26,000.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which equivalent to
27.
27%.
Tatanong ko muna.
Sorry. So 26 million was donated. And ano nga yung tapos? Hindi, wala yan dyan.
Unless meron pa rito. Tignan mo pa. Na meron dito.
Lahat yan ay
That's right. Okay.
So 39.37.
Of the 49. Of the 49. Okay. Mr. President, earlier we reported that 49.7 million is the total wastage. Of that, 26.2 million were donations. More than half, Mr. President, were donations.
Okay, so that gives us 23.7 million doses were procured
That's correct, Mr.
by
President.
the Republic of the Philippines.
That's correct, Mr. President.
And then for those of us who hate wastage, to get the value of that, I think it's safe to use 500 pesos per dose to get the ballpark figure of the total amount of the vaccines wasted, Mr. President. Will the DOH confirm around 500 is a reasonable amount to use, Mr. President? Ballpark figure lang naman. Well, 500 pesos.
So, so 100 M?
So parang mga
100 B or
11 to 12 billion pesos, Mr. President.
23 million na po siya. So times 500.
230, 2B. 10B?
1.7.
10B? 10B, 23, 230, 230B, 230M, 230, 2B, 10, 11B, 11. Yeah, using that number of 500 pesos, which is an estimate, it would be about 11 billion,
It's
Mr.
11 to
President.
12 billion
Yeah,
pesos. Mr.
11 to 12 billion.
Okay, so the purpose naman ng review natin is to learn some lessons kung,
Mm-mm.
kung sakaling, hopefully hindi na mangyari ulit ang pandemic, but there's a prediction yata or that the
We have to be prepared
yeah
for the next.
and then the time period between the pandemics is getting shorter and shorter, Mr. President. So are we ordering COVID-19 or procuring COVID-19 vaccines in the 2024 budget of the DOH?
No, Mr. President. Okay. We actually have been offered COVAX donation, Mr. President. 500,000 doses.
And we will accept the donation.
Yes, we are accepting the donation, Mr. President.
And this would be the equivalent vaccines.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. President.
So at least we have a categorical answer na we're no longer appropriating any fund for the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines in the 2024 budget. In the future, Mr. President, does the DOH believe that we can avoid these NDAs, NDA provisions in the future procurement contracts for vaccines, Mr. President?
Yeah, I know, but can it be avoided? He knows that. Yeah. If it's in terms of can we refuse, we can always refuse. But as it happened during the time of the negotiation, which the secretary, of course, was not
Yes.
involved in, but this representation was familiar, not involved, but familiar because I would receive reports from Secretary of Finance, IATF, Secretary Galvez. It was demanded by the supplier. So parang at that time na wala tayong ibang makunan or kung meron man, naalala ko noon yung first batch ng Sinovac, di ba parang 1,000 ano lang yun, 1,000 lang. So tinanggap po yun at that time. I understand also that this was a condition imposed on many countries at umalma na rin yung ibang countries. So I don't know kung collectively pwede na nating iwasan yon na maganon tayo.
Sige. Let that be part of our review of our COVID-19 response, as well as how the pharmaceutical companies behaved or made some impositions, Mr. President. Naging take it or leave it ba? Yung NDA, they will
President,
not supply
oo.
us.
Both the secretary and I confirm that's what I've heard during that time, and that's also what the secretary knows. Talagang remember the production was very low still, so inuunahan natin, and they really would divert it somewhere else if those NDAs were not signed. Yeah, oo nga, my God.
Sige po, siguro, but
President, if you will recall, they also required an indemnity, not just clause, but an indemnity fund, and we actually,
exemption from ano sila?
yeah, we actually
yes.
passed a law. So just to put on record, so
Figure for the number of deaths attributable to COVID-19. We have it also in the report, Mr. President.
tama ba? 66,000 ba?
Meron, andun, basta it's in the report. We will find it in the report. Okay?
Mm-mm.
Did the DOH also study the so-called number of excess deaths? Mr. President, did we use that concept, Mr. President?
The excess deaths are reported recently by PSM. Because it's the computation of a 5-year average.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's not in the report. Yeah, it's not in the report, Mr. President. That is something that came from PSA.
Yes, we can use the concept as a metric in our, once we hold hearings on the resolution of our sponsor. It can guide us into something, or it can indicate something. So depende po. We will listen to the resource persons on the value of that figure on excess debts during the period of the pandemic, Mr. President. So Mr. President, one last thing, meron na naman nag-communicate po sa atin on the
Buti pa
Oh.
kayo, Mr. President, hindi nagsasara ng 12 o'clock yung
Opo.
opisina
Opo.
nyo.
Bago nga po ako bago ako magpatuloy, since our resource persons are the expert on health, is it still healthy to conduct interpellation at 12:01 after 12 hours, Mr. President? Hindi na. After spending 12 hours yesterday
The last
interpellating, so it's no longer healthy. So this will be the last question, Mr. President. The
That-
government still owes 20,000 pesos for each. No, the government still owes 20,000 healthcare workers 1.94 billion pesos in back pay. Is this a correct figure? Is this a correct statement of fact? And is my figure correct? And how will we address the problem, Mr. President?
Actually, Mr. President, your figure is not correct.
How much?
What is owed is 62.7, well, the funding requirement to meet all to be able to deliver on the commitment is 62.77 billion, and this is for 10.4 million claims. These are arrears from July 2021 to July 2023.
Okay, so that's the accepted amount. We recognize it that we, it is the 62.77 billion pesos. Is this only the COVID-19 allowance or special
Okay,
risk allowance related to the COVID-19 pandemic? 62.77 billion pesos po. Malayong-malayo pala yung report sa akin.
yeah, Mr. President, it includes HEA, which is the Health Emergency Allowance, and the COVID-19 sickness and death compensation. Combined na po yun. Kaya ito there are 10 million claims.
Hindi, HEA is also COVID-19. Okay. So what is our strategy, Mr. President, to our sponsor says that these are already arrears. So ibig sabihin nun, diba, due and demandable na po ito? So what is our strategy to comply with our obligations, and did we anticipate this or set an amount in the 2024 budget, Mr. President?
Answer the other one.
Baka na-
Mr. President, let me explain. In the 2024 program appropriation, we have 19.96 billion. And then there is also an amount in the unprogrammed appropriation, which is 2.35 billion. So, Mr. President, if you deduct the amount mentioned, which is the 62.77, and you deduct those two amounts, 19.96 and 2.35, that is 22.31. You are left with a funding deficiency of 40.40 billion. But, Mr. President, we have an unreleased 2020 unprogrammed appropriation of 48.96 billion, which is obviously bigger than 40. So we can cover this kung ito pong unprogrammed release. It's a very important question, Mr. President, because we have a lot of health workers waiting for this answer. Sa unprogrammed appropriation pa lang of 2023, I want to assure them that that is there. Our chairman, Senator Angara, included that there. And pagka nare-release po yan ng DBM, may sobra pa pong 8.56, which siguro di naman niya i-release lahat kasi sobra nga po.
Okay.
That's the answer, Mr. President.
Okay, so it's found in the unprogrammed appropriations for the year 2023.
Yes, Mr. President.
So,
And then may matitira, pag nailabas yun, may matitira pa na nilagay naman natin sa 2024. So, mako-cover natin lahat.
Ano po yung nalagay sa 2024? The 2.35?
Yes.
unprogrammed.
22.31.
Yes,
19.9,
program then
program
unprogrammed, yes.
19.9 and 2B na hindi programmed.
So, okay, so it depends. What is the lifetime or the effectivity period for unprogrammed appropriations, Mr. President?
Basta paano?
So, separate siya kasi. But since we have a surplus of 8.50.
Talagang part siya ng budget.
Okay. Mr. President, just to be sure the response to His Honor's question is accurate, the responses are accurate. The COVID-19 sickness and death compensation was not included in the computation. But this amount is 486 million only. And as I said, there is an excess of 8.5 billion
Tama.
dun sa unprogrammed. So it will definitely be covered. We want to assure our health workers, Mr. President,
Yes, if the unprogrammed
is released.
is released in full. Dalawa
And
pa
to be
is
clear,
released and, also,
yes.
and it depends on the amount released. But my question is a basic budgeting question. What is the lifetime or effective period for unprogrammed appropriations?
Yes. So, Mr. President, if it is released by December 31 of this year, it can be used until the end of 2024, 1 year po. So, 1 more year.
If again, if it is released,
If it is released, unprogrammed appropriation released until December 31, 2023 can be used until the end of 2024.
if it is, but the release must happen before the end of this year.
Yes,
And then-
Mr.
And then
President.
the recipient agency is the DOH.
Yes, Mr. President.
So
Then from the
we hope for the best. Unfortunately, Mr. President, tinanong ko yung rate of release and program for this year. It's low 30%, unfortunately.
Mm.
Historically, for unprogrammed appropriations, 70% ang nare-release. Historically, that's the historical. But for this year, mababa daw. So I think we need to do some following up of the, siguro with the Office of the President and the DBM to prioritize the item, Mr. President. Kasi iba, strange behavior for 2023. It's not following the historical figure of 70% released among the unprogrammed appropriations, Mr. President. Just for information from our past interpellation, Mr. President. Okay, so with that, Mr. President, so we need also some vigilance here to follow it up and some luck and also some help for the government to collect siguro extra revenues, Mr. President, in excess of projections. So thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to greet all of you. Good morning, actually, Secretary. Good morning, Mr. Secretary, and to the DOH family. And thank you for your patience, and of course, to thank you to our sponsor for guiding our discussion, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Minority Floor Leader, for your very enlightening questions to give clarity to all our listeners and viewers and your late night callers, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, next to interpellate, just a short interpellation would be our Deputy Majority Leader, Senator J.V. Ejercito. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Our Deputy Majority Floor Leader, J.V. Arsto, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to ask our chair a few questions. I'm sure that this will also interest our Senate President because I think all of us made interventions last year to add budget, especially for the specialty centers, which is also a priority of the President. For the record, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor, maybe spread to the record how much is our budget allocation for the establishment and the improvement of specialty center under this year's General Appropriations Act.
Mr. President, 10.23 billion.
Yes, if I can recall, Your Honor, Mr. President, last year, the original budget was about 4.5 billion. Then the Senate initiative through the Senate President added 2.2 billion. and a lot more. So that's about 10 billion. But as of today, I just like to know how much has been utilized by the DOH from the utilized, how much has been disbursed so far.
So how much has been, wait, sorry, is this year?
Ito, John. Merong summary. Disbursement.
As of today. So as of today, Mr. President, of the 2.235 billion, the obligation rate is 59.17% and the disbursement is 18.54. Tataas pa ba to or what? Construction?
I'd just like to add up, Mr. President, for 2023, no? Because the original budget was 4.5, then we added 2.2 billion. I just like to be clarified, Your Honor, if is it true that the utilization rate is only 0.9% as of the moment, Your Honor?
59 po.
Specialty Center.
Ah, yung pinakabago po doon is 59%, Mr. President.
59%, Your Honor? Out of the 6.7, yung pong dinagdagan natin.
Out of the 2.
Just want to make sure that, kasi because we added a lot, no? Considering that this is one of the priority programs of the administration and the another pet program of our Senate President.
The 59% is only for the. Mr. President, can I just want to reconcile his honor's figures and our figures. What figure can you repeat your figures?
For 2023, Your Honor.
Are you talking about 2.24, Mr. President? 2.24 billion?
The total of 6.7,
Ba kayo?
under the DOH, HFEP, Your Honor. The original budget was
So you're,
4.5.
you're including, sorry, Mr. President, I need to reconcile these figures. This is the 2.2, which is an appeal, and then
6.7 total, kasi dinagdag natin ng 2, di ba?
6.
Yeah, the original budget last year was 4.5, then through the Senate initiative, we added 2.2. So it's yung 6.7 billion. That was intended for the specialty centers.
Yung HFEP? Sige, a minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session suspended.
Kaya magkaiba. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'll repeat the figures I mentioned. The obligation rate of 59.17% and the disbursement rate of 18.54 is for the figure of 2.235 billion, which is the amount that His Honor is referring to that was added by the Senate, Mr. President. Mr. President.
So with that amount, actually, we still have another month. I'd just like to ask also the DOH, what's their catch-up plan so that, we can maximize. Because for 2024, the budget for specialty centers will be increased to about 10 billion. So just want to
Yeah.
make sure that it will be
Correct.
maximized and utilized.
Of course. So, Mr. President, I'm told that by December 2023, 84% will be obligated. And then by January 2024, 100% will be obligated. And therefore, they are confident that the increased funding that will be provided in the 2024 GAA would be utilized to the maximum, Mr. President.
Anyway, Your Honor, Mr. President, last year, the DOH identified hospitals about 10, and this 2024, we increased already. Am I correct? That we increased already the identified specialty hospitals.
928 plus 9, at total is 45. This is all happening for 2024 only. Okay. So for 2024, Mr. President, His Honor is correct. It is 45 specialty
45.
centers. Yes, and the total cost would be 10.2 billion, Mr. President.
I'm looking at the expenses that we have, no, the infra, also the equipment. And Your Honor, Mr. President, I was able to go around also, had the chance to visit some of these hospitals, and like the Western Visayas Medical Center, PJ Garcia, some are already, the infrastructure are already almost complete. I just like to probably, if we can propose that if we can concentrate on the equipment, because I have seen most of this, some of these hospitals that are ready already, and I would like to send send to the secretary and the DOH which hospitals are almost complete the infrastructure, because I get the chance to go around the country riding my bike, and I also get to visit these hospitals, and some of them yung equipment na lang pong nire-request nila, if it's possible, if we can prioritize PJ Garcia, Western Visayas Medical Center, yung Southern Isabela Medical Center, and others, and Northern Mindanao Medical Centers. Ang ano na lang po nila, Madam Chair, so that we can already maximize and use they can be used already as soon as possible. If we can prioritize in equipping all of these identified hospitals, whose infrastructures are already
Yes.
ready.
Yes, Mr. President, I was discussing with them while listening to you, to His Honor, and definitely yung for equipping na lang, no, meaning to say the facility, the infra is already there, they just need equipment. There are 9 specialty centers, and then after that, yung for upgrading is 28, and then yung new construction is 9. So there is a prioritization, Mr. President. Thank you.
We list the target.
For 2024, Your Honor, Madam President, Mr. President, Madam Chair, I have a list also here that for infrastructure, it's about 8 billion, 8.2 billion. For infra, it's about 8.2 billion. For equipment, it's almost 2 billion, no? Or 1.9 billion, or total of 10.2 billion.
Yes, that's
Correct.
correct, Mr. President.
So we're hoping that if we can also prioritize now, this time, kasi po yung infra parang medyo, ano eh, I think it takes a while. But for some of those that are already ready, they're just waiting for equipment, probably if we can request the DOH so that it can be used right away, you know? And we're hoping that the soonest possible time, with this budget, at least we can have a more complete specialty center that can be used already in about 2 or 3 years, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yeah, I know, but which one equipment?
There are also requests, I'll just forward, Your Honor, Mr. President, Your Honor, to DOH. For example, yung po, nabanggit ko kanina because I was able to visit some of them, like I discussed with the Secretary. Some of the hospitals that we funded together, no? Yung PJ Garcia, Western Visayas, those I mentioned. Saya po kasi it's already, the infrastructure is already there. Yun po, I hope that we can already prioritize putting the equipment, and also some of the provincial hospitals that are also ready and that are really supporting the the program, no? And it's worth helping some of these facilities, Your Honor.
Noted, Mr. President, by the Secretary.
And last but not least, Your Honor, with regards to the UHC Act, it mandates DepEd and DOH to set standards designating schools as healthy settings and address public health problems with the school system. At present, data shows an average of 1:8,114 nurse to student population ratio nationwide, which short of the DepEd proposed ratio
Nodding.
of 1:5,000. School health and nutrition is also currently part of shared services among schools within a division. In the interim, schools were directed to designate teachers who will act as clinic teachers. However, Mr. President, our teachers have a lot on their plate, and this program will be an additional task to them. So we just like to know if the DOH has an ongoing or a new program to address public health problems through the school systems.
Yung public space. I didn't catch his question.
Okay. Di ba clinical health?
Oh, yan yung
The reason I asked Madam Sponsor, Mr. President, because this is also part of the UHC, you know.
Yeah. So, Mr. President, well, even in the earlier discussion with the minority floor leader, we pointed out that that is the challenge to really be able to audit what our needs are when it comes to human health resources. And I think we took this up during the deliberation of the bill, and an immediate solution is the clinical care associate, which would be most likely nursing graduates who then can receive special training on the specific needs. So in this case, for the schools, the school-age children, and they would be able to provide the services necessary with the guidance, no, of other experienced nurses and doctors who would be handling a bigger number, no, basically supervising these clinical care associates, Mr. President.
Well, thank you, Madam Spor, Mr. President. I'd just like to bring this up so that at least it's nice so that at least the DOH would already prioritize and make sure that as part of UHC that this will be given attention, Your Honor. So,
Yes,
Mr. President.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Maybe the gentleman from San Juan can be the majority floor leader for the meantime and recognize Senator Bongo.
Yes, Mr. President. Next to interpolate is Senator Bongo. I move that he be recognized.
Our distinguished colleague from Davao and the vice chair of the committee as well as chairman of the Committee on Health, yan, nagkakasakit na ako. Excuse me. I'm also getting
Thank you.
calls, I think, from staying late at night, every night. So I hope it's a short,
Thank you,
explanation.
hardworking Mr. President. Ayaw kong magkasakit ka para makagising ka pa bukas. Huwag kang mag-alala, maraming doktor dito. Maraming gagamot sa inyo. Andito ang ating dancing doctor. Meron na rin tayong mga sleeping doctors. As chairperson of the Committee on Health and Demography, I want to underscore the importance of the 2024 budget of the Department of Health in our path towards recovery. As I have said many times before, now is the time to invest more in improving our healthcare system. We must make sure that our health budget is responsive to the needs of our healthcare system. On that note, Mr. President, will the good sponsor of the DOH yield the floor for a very few questions lang po. At yung iba ako nang sasagot sa tanong ko.
Yun yung the best part po doon, yung second part nung sinabi nyo. Of course, we will be happy to try to answer the questions of His Honor, the Chairperson of the Committee on Health.
Thank you. May we know how much additional budget is DOH requesting and how much were we able to add in our committee report? Which programs and budget appeals were prioritized, Mr. President?
Well, Mr. President, the Senate increased by almost 50 billion the amount indicated in the NEP from 306.13 billion to 353 billion. The wish list, of course, of the agency and, well, DOH and its attached agencies and corporations is much bigger. But these are the amount, 50 billion was what was accommodated in the Senate committee report, Mr. President.
Thank you, good sponsor. I support the increases in the health budget. In fact, I also wrote our finance chairman, Senator Angara, to push for additional budget for the DOH. During the budget hearing, I mentioned the importance of the continuous upgrading of our health facilities. Mahalaga po na patuloy nating upgrade ang ating mga pampublikong ospital na karamihan naman ay mahirap po ang pumupunta at nakikinabang dito. Sa dami po ng pumupunta sa pampublikong ospital, hindi na po nagkakasya mga pasyente. Last Congress, we passed 69 laws for the improvement and establishment of various public hospitals all over the country. Importante po na mabigyan ng sapat na pondo ang mga batas na ipinasa natin para sa pag-upgrade o pagtatayo ng mga pampublikong hospital. We must ensure enough funding for the Health Facilities Enhancement Program, lalo na marami pang pasilidad ang kailangan po ng upgrade. Super health centers, I have been advocating for the construction of super health centers all over the country to make primary care services more accessible. Super health centers are designed to focus on primary care, consultation, and early detection. I note that the construction of 117 super health centers is included in the proposed budget for next year. At ang konsulta package po ng PhilHealth can be accessed in super health centers once they are completed. Paano ang magiging proseso at partnership ng LGU? Libre ba ang konsultasyon? I have noticed po sa increase, andito po ang ating presidente ng CEO ng ating PhilHealth. Meron pong increase, no? 101 billion na po ang budget ng PhilHealth. 21 billion shall be used for the benefit packages improvement and comprehensive outpatient benefit package. Ito po yung konsulta. Magko-complement ho ba itong mga super health center sa ating konsulta package?
Yes, Mr. President.
Itong additional budget ay gagamitin po sa konsulta package na
Yes,
pwedeng
Mr.
gawin
President.
dito.
Yes.
Mr. President, once super health centers are completed, they can serve as consulta accredited facilities. We hope the DOH and PhilHealth would collaborate closely on this for the successful implementation of these projects and programs. Regional Specialty Centers, earlier this year, we passed the Regional Specialty Centers Act. Promise po ito ng ating Mr. President, no? Ang ating reading, Mr. President. Mr. President, promise mo po ito. Wala na. Mr. President, di ba ito yung campaign promise mo na tinupad po natin?
Regional,
Oo.
yes. Am I doing being interpolated? Yes,
Yes.
yes. Yes, that is my principal, my baby and, our advocacy in the last Congress.
Yes.
And, naipasa na natin yun. So hopefully ma-implement na po.
Correct.
Right.
We passed the Regional Specialty Centers Act. 10 billion is already included in the committee report for the implementation of this law. This is a multi-year program at sana po mabigyan ng sapat na pondo para hindi na kailangan pumunta po ng Maynila ang mga pasyenteng may malubhang sakit sa mga probinsya. Ilalagay na po ito sa mga existing DOH regional hospitals, itong 17 specialty centers. I also want to know how many human resources, another topic na po ito, no? For health and HR deployed in local government units, meron ho ba tayong enough funding for the HRH next year?
Yes, Mr. President.
And maybe for deployment po and for scholarships.
Anong tanong? Sabi
I
niya
mean,
may enough. Ang sagot ko po,
may enough
yes.
funding pa po. Kasi daming tuloy-tuloy po yung mga request ng LGUs dito.
We included 16.9 billion, Mr. President, for this.
Some LGUs still need support of the national government. Yung iba po ay hindi kayang mag-hire ng personnel, lalo na po sa mga malalayong lugar. Madam Sponsor, ito naman pong renationalization. What is the position of the DOH regarding renationalization of some hospitals? Dahil as chairman po ng Committee on Health, ako po ang mag-sponsor nito dito after magagaling po sa lower house. I understand that considering health is devolved, LGUs are expected to support their own hospitals. Paano po yung mga LGUs na kulang rin po ang pondo at hindi kayang tustusan ang hospital sa kanila? Yung ibang hospital po, hindi lang isang probinsya ang catchment population. Marami pong pumasa sa lower house at pagdating dito sa Senado, hindi na po pumasa dahil nga po doon sa implementation. Yun ang naging rason, no? Yung implementation ng Mandanas ruling.
Mr. President, the question is, what is the position of the Department of Health?
Yes. Priority ho ba ang renationalization?
Well, Mr. President, the goal of the department, according to the secretary, is to have a tertiary hospital or a DOH-run level 3 hospital in every province. So what they are doing what they are prepared to do with respect to a renationalization policy is to assess what are those priority areas. So if wherever there is a low capacity of a hospital, meaning to say yung hospital either it's not managed well or whatever, low capacity, yung ability nila to meet the needs of the population is very low. So low capacity and low din ang income dun sa lugar na yon, yung probinsya na yon. And then nandun nga ho yung gap in terms of yung the services that are needed is very high, then those would be the priority areas for renationalization. Ngayon, kung i-request lang ho ng, let's say, isang probinsya, whether it's a governor, congressman, whatever, in an area na i-renationalize yung ospital na meron namang functioning hospital doon na maganda, then hindi ho priority yon. So
Salamat.
it would really depend on the needs, Mr. President. Need basis.
Salamat, Mr. President. going to Malasakit Center, aside from accessibility of health facilities, equally important is the affordability of health services. That is why I principally authored and sponsored Republic Act 11463 or the Malasakit Centers Act, which mandates the establishment of Malasakit Centers in all DOH hospitals and the PGH. Per last report, 7 million na po ang mga pasyenteng natulungan ng Malasakit Centers. Do we have updated figures na po sa ngayon, no? As of today, ng mga natulungan po ng Malasakit Centers?
Kailan ho ba yung latest update na natanggap ng ating kasamahan?
Nabasa ko yun during the time of former OIC assistance. We must strengthen the operations of Malasakit Centers. Dapat walang matanggihan na pasyente considering the budget we are allocating for the medical assistance to indigent patients program. I notice po na malaki ang budget ng MAIP. Ang pakiusap ko lang po, gamitin ito para sa mga medical assistance to indigent patients. Walang dapat piliin, walang pili po. Para po ito sa mga poor and indigent patients. Yung mga walang matakbuhan, yung mga helpless at hopeless nating mga kababayan na walang inaasahan po ng tulong po mula sa gobyerno. Huwag po natin silang pahirapan. Pera naman po ito ng taong bayan. Ibalik po sa kanila. During the Commission on Appointments hearing of Secretary Herbosa, he committed na walang matatanggihan na pasyente na nangangailangan ng tulong. The Secretary also issued a department memorandum stating that all patients must be accorded with available services that they need in Malasakit Centers. Again, I would like to remind the good Secretary na dapat po ay walang pipiliin at hindi po selective ang pagbibigay po ng tulong. Hindi dapat magamit sa politika ang pagbibigay ng tulong dahil ang Malasakit Center po ay ginawa para sa mga poor and indigent patients. Lahat po na nakapila ay dapat tulungan. Moving on, Mr. President, hindi rin po natin dapat kalimutan ang sapat na pondo para sa mental health program, lalo na sa panahon ngayon na maraming krisis na kinakaharap ang ating mga kababayan. Marami pong nag-commit ng suicide during that time of the pandemic, no? Magkano po ang PhilHealth coverage for mental health cases? Do they have outpatient coverage? What is the plan of PhilHealth for the benefit packages for mental health cases and consultation? Napaka-importante po nitong mental health problem or issues natin.
Yeah, the answer is of course, merong outpatient. That's all considered outpatient, 4.6. No. Sama-sama na. So inpatient and outpatient.
Yes.
Oh. Yes, Mr. President, this question was also asked by His Honor, our Minority Floor Leader, and we confirm that there is a budget for mental health. It is 4.77 billion, and this includes both inpatient and outpatient services and commodities, Mr. President.
In 2023, 1.9 billion is included in the budget for the mental health program of the DOH. In the 2024 NEP, the proposed budget is 683 million. Ay dapat pong pagtuunan po natin itong mental health programs. We should continue to improve our mental health programs and ensure that all forms of psychosocial assistance will be made available to Filipinos who are suffering from all forms of mental health issues, especially at this time of crisis. Sana po ay madagdagan ang budget para sa mental health. At lastly po, no, last Congress, we passed Republic Act 11712 or the Public Health Emergency Benefits and Allowances for the healthcare workers sponsored by the Finance Chair, Senator Angara. Ayon sa DBM, meron naman pong na-release na 23.6 billion na pondo po mula sa budget ng gobyerno ngayong taon, 19.6 po sa program appropriations at 4 billion from unprogrammed funds. At sana po meron pang inaasahan ang ating mga healthcare workers. Wag po sana nating silang pabayaan. May nabasa po ako na plano nilang mag-rally, no? Kasi ito po ay services rendered already. According to the data na nakuha ko po, nabanggit na rin po kanina, 62 billion po mahigit ang arrears, no, since 2021 na dapat na bayaran po sa ating mga healthcare workers. Services rendered na po ito. Ibig sabihin, pinaghirapan na po ito at pinagpawisan. At nakikiusap po ako sa ating Department of Health and DBM. Obligasyon po ito ng gobyerno. Pinapaalalahanan ko lang po kayo, kayo po ang implementing arm ng gobyerno, ang DOH at DBM, na ibigay po what is due to our healthcare workers. Maliit lang po ito na halaga kumpara po sa kanilang sakripisyo sa panahon ng pandemya. Hindi po natin mararating ito kung di po dahil sa kanila. Ang iba po ay nagbuwis ng buhay, ang iba po ay nagkasakit sa panahon ng pandemya. That is all, Mr. President. I have no further questions. Sinagot ko na rin po ang aking tanong. Nagpapasalamat po ako sa good sponsor who is a fellow health advocate for advocating for the health budget and for taking the time to answer my few questions. I continue to push for additional budget for health. Napaka-importante po. The more we should invest sa ating healthcare system. Salamat po, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to put on record, yung mga last 3 or 4 topics ng ating kasamahan, hindi na yun question, statement po. But because 2-point-something billion for 2024 covered po ang lahat ng arrears natin sa ating mga health workers.
Salamat. I will continue to remind and to appeal sa ating DBM na ma-release po itong mga unprogrammed funds, no, na may bigay kaagad. Narinig ko po na meron na pong mga nabayaran, no, sa mga LGUs, sa mga hospitals ng 2021 sa DOH, 2022 at 2023. Sana po ay mabalikan kaagad sila dahil sabi ko nga, pinaghirapan nila ito, pinagpawisan po ito ng ating mga healthcare workers. Patuloy po akong magre-remind at magpapaalala bilang chairman po ng Committee on Health.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just to, for the record, so accurate po ang sagot natin, may the record reflect that the National Health Workforce Support System budget is 17.98 billion, not what I earlier reported na 16.94 billion. Because the 17.98 billion includes deployment and scholarship. Please, let's make sure that our record reflects the correct amount, Mr. President. Thank you very much to our colleague, the chairman of the Committee on Health.
Thank you very much. Madam Sponsor,
Yes, Mr. President,
if I may, Majority Leader, I'll just ask, I also want to ask, just a clarification. I had a message from the Secretary, he was in Bukidnon 2 days ago, 3 days ago, for the caravan of Speaker Martin. Yeah, he had a big caravan there. And I remember he mentioned to me that he needs additional budget of MOE for the building that we donated. I don't know if you remember, during the time of President Duterte, we actually inaugurated that building from our friends of the Philippines Foundation from Hong Kong, Kitson Ko, and he donated the Northern Bukidnon Health Wellness Northern Mindanao Wellness Center. It's a very, very good facility. They spent about 500 million pesos, privately funded, not a centavo paid by government. And I think there is kulang na MOE. Maybe we just ask the good sponsor if he can ask the secretary. I wasn't able to ask earlier. I should have asked earlier. But what is the need for the 18 million for?
18 million for the MOE for that center, Mr. President. Additional 18 million is needed.
What is the capacity now, and what would the 18 million be able to achieve if we add the funds?
For additional capacity, Mr. President.
Right now, how many people, what is it being used for right now, Madam Chair? I have not followed that up
It's a
yet.
drug rehab, Mr. President.
So it's being utilized as a drug?
Yeah, so there are currently 50 residents, and it can be doubled with the additional MOE.
Okay, yes, because that's a huge facility. That's a very large facility. Maybe we can also ask the secretary. Secretary, what we were trying to envision for that facility was not only for drug rehabilitation, but also for mental cases, I would say, mental health issues. Because we have a problem with mental health issues in the province. Wala po tayong mental health care facility.
It's actually, what the plan is, Mr. President, to include community mental health as part of the services offered by that center.
If I can get the promise from the secretary that if we do add that 18 million, can we please start already accepting mental health patients? Mr. Secretary, because the private institution there is too expensive. It's called Happy Home.
Mr. President, the plan is outpatient, so they can treat but outpatient.
Okay.
Hindi ho kayo happy doon, Mr. President?
Well, sayang yung facility. You know, sayang talaga. If you've been, if you visited that facility, it's huge. It's a huge compound, several buildings.
Mr. President,
Opo.
the secretary
Dormitories,
is simply explaining that you need a separate facility. You cannot really combine the two different types of patients with those different health issues, Mr. President. So baka pag dinagdagan natin, they can put a fence or a wall.
Actually, the whole facility is walled, but maybe
No,
in
the
between, in
The-
between.
Something like that.
Yes.
So can you come up with something in 24 hours so we can make the appropriate amendments? I mean, what's that additional budget? We would have to know.
That would be a capital outlay, siguro, Madam Sponsor, and an MOE.
Yeah. Mr. President, ano ba?
Anyway, we
Sa
can
ngayon-
work it
sa
out for
ngayon-
next year.
Yeah, sa ngayon, ang gusto nila, they'd like to somehow perfect the services offered for the drug rehab.
Okay.
But they are very willing and ready to offer the community-based outpatient mental health services. And then maybe by next year, they'll be prepared for, they can start studying about the need and their ability to service inpatients for mental health.
Although I must say that was utilized very, very well during the pandemic. It was, I believe, that's where they were housing most of the positive patients, I think at the time, who were isolated. So they utilized that. So yeah, thank you, Madam Sponsor, for answering that. Mr. Secretary, thank you. We'll try to find that 18 million for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, before I make the motion, Mr. President, I was, being the majority leader, parang pambansang utusan tayo dito, Mr. President. The Senate President Pro Tem.
Mr. President, I've already brought that up. Yung drugs that are needed for COVID treatment. We've taken it up, Mr.
Yes,
President.
Mr. President.
I also have
Thank you.
taken seriously yung binilin sa inyo ng ating Senate President Pro Tem.
Thank you very much, Mr.
That's good.
President. At least wala nang maninita sa akin tomorrow. Mr. President, there being no other reservation for interpellation, I move that we close the period of interpellation and debates and consider the budget of the Department of Health, Office of the Secretary, National Nutrition Council, Philippine National AIDS Council, Budgetary Support to Government Corporations, Department of Health, Lung Center of the Philippines, National Kidney and Transplant Institute, Philippine Children's Medical Center, Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, Philippine Heart Center, and Philippine Institute of Traditional and Alternative Healthcare be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr. President.
And I'd just like to put on record, I believe this is the first budget of Secretary Ted Herbosa. Secretary, it's your first budget.
The
So-
only secretary appointed 3 times, Mr. President.
Oh, that's
Well,
right.
this is not
That's
yet
part-
his hand-woven budget because dinatnan na rin niya to, so konti pa lang yung na intervention niya. Next year daw niyo abangan.
Much
But
better.
that's the reason
good.
why I mentioned it, Mr. President,
Good news.
because you can feel that the trust of the president is there and the trust of the even the lawmakers, Mr. President. So we congratulate the secretary.
And we're hoping that Senator Bongo can already arrange the date for his appointment.
Nga pala.
Nandito yung kanyang chairperson sa Commission on Appointments. Ano ba yung date? Libre ako next week. Ay, hindi pa pwede.
You know what? I don't get pressured by anyone. Secretary.
Oo nga po, no, we lost, we had no time at that time.
Move for the previous question, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Well, I just wanted to find out from Senator Bongo when the date is. When is it? Inayos nyo na? O, sige.
Tomorrow.
So therefore, there being no objection to the, huh?
Tomorrow?
By 3-day notice, eh. So next week na. There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, the budget of the Department of Health and all its attached agencies are hereby deemed submitted. Congratulations. Session suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we consider the budget of the Games and Amusements Board and Philippine Sports Commission and acknowledge the presence of its officials from GAB, Chairperson Richard Clarin is with us, and from PSC, Chairperson Richard Bachman. We'd like to recognize also the distinguished sponsor of the measure, Senator
Senator Richard
Kasi
Gordon.
daming Richard po.
Richard Gordon.
Sorry, boss. Dumami na masyadong Richard. Umuulan tayo ng Richard, Mr. President.
Miss
No
mo
other
na
than the
si
chairperson of the
Senator
Senate
Gordon,
Committee on Sports, Senator Bongo, our Steph Curry of the Senate, and to interpolate the said budget is our minority floor leader, Senator Coco Pimentel. I move that they be recognized, Mr. President.
Yes, I just want to be clarified. I know, of course, Chairman Bachman, who was my classmate and schoolmate in San Agustin, and Mr. Clarin is the one on the right. Nice to meet you, sir. Therefore, we'd like to recognize the sponsor, Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo, to sponsor the measure and to interpolate a distinguished minority floor leader, Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel III.
Mr. President, for the GAB, the Games and Amusement Board, for fiscal year 2024, the total new appropriations of the Games and Amusement Board in our committee report is 131,118,000. For the Philippine Sports Commission, Mr. President, for fiscal year 2024, the total new appropriations of the Philippine Sports Commission in our committee report is 874,310,000 pesos. The increase of 500 million from the GAB of the House of Representatives is mostly due to the additional budget granted for the preparation, training, and participation of our athletes in various international competitions to be held next year, such as the Paris Olympics, Winter Youth Olympics, and Paralympics. We also added budget for the rehabilitation and upgrading of field sports complex, kung saan po nag-champion at mythical team member ang ating Senate Finance Chair, Senator Angara, and equally ang ating superstar ng Senate Sentinels, Senator Majority Floor Leader, Senator Joel Villanueva. Mr. President, before I yield the floor for interpellations, I just want to make a brief statement. Mr. President, as I have mentioned during the interpellation of the DBM budget, I want to thank the committee Chair of Finance, led by our very capable Chairman, Senator Sonny Angara, for supporting the increases in the PSC budget. I just want to reiterate, Mr. President, the need to support the budget for sports even at the budget preparation level. Napapansin ko po na masyadong nakaasa sa National Sports Development Fund na karamihan po'y galing sa PAGCOR o sa SUGAL. Taon-taon, maliit po ang natatanggap na budget ng sports sa NEP or sa National Expenditure Program. Every year, tayo po ay nagdadagdag ng budget dito sa Senado. Sa committee report, we added more than 1 billion for this year, particularly for the hosting of the FIBA World Cup. In 2022, we added 550 million. And in 2021, we added 1.1 billion. It has been a practice that Congress is the one adding budget for sports dahil maliit lang po ang nabibigay sa NEP. In fact, for 2024, only 174 million was approved by the DBM. Kahit na po ang kanilang proposed budget is more than 3 billion, ang parating ina-approve is less than 200 million for 2 consecutive years. Ibig sabihin nito, only 0.004% of the 5.768 trillion national budget. And yet, Mr. President, we expect our athletes to perform in international competitions. Kapag nananalo sila, damay po ang buong bansa sa honor na dala ng ating mga atleta. Kapag natatalo naman sila ay nababash pa sila. Nakita naman natin, Mr. President, na kung susuportahan natin ang ating mga atleta, malaking tulong ito sa kanila at makakapagbigay sila ng honor sa ating bansa. Sa pag-host natin ng FIBA, we were able to boost tourism amid our effort to recover from the pandemic. Pag well-organized po yung tournament, talagang napakaganda po ng resulta. I congratulate the local organizing committee for a successful hosting. Kahit hindi tayo pumasok mismo, nanalo naman tayo against China during our last game, no? At nadala natin ang momentum nito sa Asian Games where we won gold in men's basketball for the first time since 1962 or 61 years ago. We beat China twice, FIBA and Asian Games. The Philippines also had its best Asian Games ranking in nearly 3 decades after finishing 7th rin po ng samahan ng basketballistang ng Pilipinas, SBP. Nag-increase na rin po pala ang mga NSA from 50 to 82. Ibig sabihin, dumarami na po ang sinusuportahan ng ating Philippine Sports Commission. Pakiusap ko lang po, sana po mabigyan po ng halaga ang budget para sa sports dahil malaking honor po ang naidadala nila tuwing tayo po'y nananalo. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no questions for Gab. I know I looked at your budget, 131 million, but you have other sources of funding, Gab? Tama po ba? Wala. Gab is purely funded through the GAA? You have other sources of funds?
Meron ba kayo? Sa license. Saan sa tumutungo? Saan pumupunta?
Hindi yan. Nabago pa ba si Chairman?
Meron pong income, no? Ang GAB, no? Income from admission receipts, and radio and television and motion picture rights. 3%, no?
Okay. Sige pa. We can see that naman siguro sa mga reports, financial reports, yung amount yan. So, can I go to the Philippine Sports Commission, Mr. President? Nabanggit po nating sponsor, the Sports Commission requested for a budget of 3 billion. Ayun. So may we know what is the plan? What is the plan or the program which amounts reach 3 billion pesos?
Initially, Mr. President, ang hiningi nilang original request.
Yes, the original request. 3 billion.
Isa-isahin ko na lang po, no?
Eh, More or less, sir, bakit umabot tayo sa 3 billion?
Malaki yung kanilang gustong ilaan sa rehabilitation po ng Rizal Memorial Complex, rehabilitation po ng Field Sports Complex. In fact, naglaro yung ating top two superstars ng Senate. Tumutulo yung basketball court dun sa gilid. Not only that, yung mga atleta natin talaga doon ay kawawa po ang kinatatayuan nila. Yung barracks nila, kailangan po talaga ng repair. Sana naman po mabigyan ng isang komportable na pagtitirahan habang nagtitraining yung mga para athletes po natin, mga disabled. Doon po they were housed there po sa Field Sports.
So we're talking about 2 complexes here. Two, only one complex.
Correct.
This is the Rizal.
Rizal and the Field Sports.
Field
Po.
Sports is in Pasig.
Correct. Yes. Yes, Mr. President.
Dalawa.
Dalawa po.
Tatlo daw sabi ni Chairman eh. Doon sa original proposal po nila. Baguio? Yeah, hindi kami familiar sa Baguio facilities natin. What do we have?
Wala sa request niya, di ba?
Wala sa request.
Originally, nandun sa request nila but not included in the committee report yung pangatlo, Mr. President.
Oo nga po. Kasi 3 billion nga po yung nila eh.
Pinagkakasya lang po.
Sige po, then maybe we can achieve the same thing through this multi-year mechanism. Baka. Because baka yung 3 billion was medyo may mga one-time, big-time amounts po siguro doon. Maybe, I have not seen the 3 billion original proposal. So, just an advice, baka ma-achieve din natin ang same purpose if we go through the route of the multi-year obligation allotment po ba yan? Okay.
Actually, Mr. President, kinausap ko rin po si Secretary Bunuan na baka pwede nilang ilagay sa NEP, no? Kaya lang, gaya ng sinabi niya, implementing agency lang po sila or department. Umaasa rin po sila sa concerned agencies tulad ng PSC, kung sports, kung classrooms naman, mula po sa DepEd manggagaling yung pondo. Implementing lang daw po sila.
There is a PSC training center in Teachers Camp Baguio pala. 60 million is in the record. Okay. Siguro yun na lang po. And then our committee report, the Senate committee report, gave the commission 500 million. Okay po. So may we know saan saan dun sa kanilang proposed PAPs ang na-fund po natin sa 500
The committee report, Mr. President, rehabilitation of and upgrading of field sports complex, 75 million. Rehabilitation of Rizal, 1 million. Financial assistance to athletes, 100 million. Digitization of PSC, 10 million. Larot Saya sa parke operations, 10 million. Philippine National Anti-Doping Organization, 10 million. Regional Training Coordination Program Development, 20 million. BIP Iaga Games, 30 million. Indigenous Peoples Games, 10 million. Mr. President.
Malaki pala po ang disconnect kasi from the answer, 75 million ang binigay natin for the rehabilitation of the Rizal Memorial Sports Complex. Sa proposal po niyo, 1.6 billion ang inyo hiningi. So I think just siguro advise, Mr. President, for the PSC to sit down with DBM. I mean, ang layo po ng ating... pero committee report na yung 75, ibig sabihin nun sa NEP, zero. Zero po yun? Wala
Wala
kaya,
talaga.
walang binigay for the
Wala.
So ito, para makita natin
Sa Rizal po, sa House of Rep, no?
Yes.
Pagdating sa atin, meron silang dinagdag na 200 million sa rehabilitation of Rizal Memorial.
Pero sa committee report po natin, dinagdagan pa
Nag-add
natin.
tayo ng
So
75
ibigay
million.
275.
Correct,
Okay.
Mr.
But
President.
the proposal is 1.6 billion. Nakita ko yung listahan. So
Sa NEP.
ang layo pa rin ng gap. So maybe the agency needs to sit down with the DBM. Baka mag-ocular pa siguro kailangan to really convince them of our estimates. Napansin ko po, napakalayo po. Well, at any rate, Mr. President, yung 2024 pala is an Olympic year, at saka when there is an Olympics, hindi lang pala tayo nakatingin sa regular Olympics, but meron palang Paralympics. And I'm sure we're sending a bigger delegation siguro to the Paralympic Games than the regular Olympic Games. Tama po ba yun, Mr. President? The Philippine delegation will be larger?
Sige, okay.
Sa
Ang
Paralympics.
estimated number of delegation po sa winter is about 100, and the same with the Paris Olympics, about 100 po. Ang kanilang estimated number of delegation.
Winter, we are participating in winter, what's this, Winter Games? No. That's not Paris anymore. Ibang lugar na po yan.
Yes,
Is that also next year? 2024 is also Winter Olympic. Sabay po ba yun? Summer and winter, ibang schedule yun, ano?
January 19 to February 1 po, 2024 ang
Okay, sige.
winter. Sa South Korea po ito, Gangwon. And then Paris naman po yung Olympics.
Sige po, nakaka-participate na tayo sa Winter Games because of SM Mega Mall. Tama ba yun? Is that a correct statement? Sila because of the ice skating rink there, Mr. President. Okay, Mr. President, EJ Obiena will surely represent the Philippines in the 2024 Paris Olympics because he has been winning pole vault events in Europe, Mr. President. So, are we supporting athletes like EJ Obiena, especially geared towards their Olympic participation, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President.
So,
Full support po ang ating
through the National Sports Association. Ganun po.
yes, Mr. President.
How many have qualified so far, Mr. President, for the Paris Summer Games? Four na, meron na.
Four.
I thought it was only EJ Obiena. Can we have the names, Mr. President? Para we can wish them all the best and also offer prayers for their success.
Yumer, EJ Obiana, Carlos Yulo.
Okay. Marcial. Yulo, Yobiena, and
Alena Finigan, the gymnastics.
okay. So we have boxing, pole vault, and one in men's gymnastics and women's gymnastics thing.
And there is a slim still window open pa po dun sa ating basketball team, no, sa FIBA qualifier. Pwede pang meron pa tayong slim chance of qualifying.
Okay. How about Senator Manny Pacquiao? Can
Depende
he
po
box
yun.
in the Paris Olympics? Possible? Hindi ko alam ang rules, sir. I'm assuming you know the rules. The rules better. Is that still a possibility?
Qualified ba? According to the Philippine Sports Commission commissioner, he can be given a exemption, no?
Okay, since there's a possibility, di mag-sparring na po kami ni Senator Manny Pacquiao.
You're the team manager, Mr. President.
We will spar over the chessboard, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, worried lang po yung iba nating kababayan because the reports indicate we've been losing Filipinos to other countries, Mr. President, or jurisdictions. For example, Jaja Santiago who is a valuable player, is in the process of becoming a Japanese national. Yuka Saso made the decision to represent Japan. Wesley So, in my field, Mr. President, is now representing the United States Chess Federation. I think he's also now a citizen of the United States. Alex Pagulayan of Billiards is now carrying the Canadian flag. Is this the concern of the PSC, and do we have what's our strategy or our programs to keep our talented athletes to keep them here and keep them representing the Philippines, Mr. President?
According to our Philippine Sports Commission, ang concern po nito, Mr. President, ay ang NSA, the one handling the athletes.
Kung may programs man sila, we are indirectly helping them through the assistance. We give the NSA's assistance, Mr. President.
Correct.
And the funds which the NSA's come from the GAA. Ganun po ba yan?
Meron rin pong manggagaling sa PAGCOR, Mr. President. NSDF, National Support Sports Development Fund.
Okay. So PAGCOR has been compliant with the law, with the literal terms of the law, or with its own interpretation of the law. Give us just the
According to our
real
Philippine Sports Commission, historically, since 1990s, the actual remittance of PAGCOR to PSC is only about 2.3%. This is due to the different interpretation on the share of the PSC in the contribution of the PAGCOR. Ito po ay binabawasan mula sa franchise tax, tapos binabawasan pa ng 50% government share bago makuha ng PSC yung share nila. Yun po ang naging interpretation. Historically, I believe there is already a case in the Supreme Court regarding this.
Tagal na po nito. I think it's pending motion for reconsideration na yata, as if I remember correctly. Tagal na ito pinag-uusapan. There is a report that you have pending refund claim with PAL, 237,622 pesos in connection with the canceled tickets for the 31st SEA Games. What's the status of this claim? Yan ang COA. Yan lang, ganyan ang kasimple ang COA.
Sa kasalukuyan po, nakikipag-coordinate pa po ang PSC, Philippine Sports Commission, with the Philippine Airlines.
Gamitin na lang sa future flights ng ating athletes, Mr. President. So last question, Mr. President. At any rate, the PSC is appearing before us on a high note because we successfully held the FIBA. So from the sponsor, how much did the government spend for FIBA? Yung assistance po natin na binigay, 1 billion?
Actually, we allotted last year, no, through the initiative of our finance chair. We added 1 billion in the hosting of
Yes.
the FIBA
Uh-uh.
World Cup this year, actually.
Mm-mm.
And then nakita naman po natin, we were able to boost tourism
Yan.
and we showcased how beautiful our country. So the
Yes, actually,
actual amount as to date 100% have been utilized by the FIBA organizers, and liquidation is currently ongoing.
Yes.
The 1 billion is
1 billion. Yeah,
1 billion is fully
Yes,
utilized.
ang argument last year was that, there will be some economic returns and maybe more. So now that it is over, can we get a report from the chairman? What have been the returns? Medyo economic, reputational, whatever, goodwill returns, Mr. President. Tingnan natin if we can quantify it. Was the promise made last year fulfilled, Mr. President?
The reports? According to our PSC chairman, wala pa pong post-event report, no?
But well, will one be made, Mr. President? And who will make it, Mr. President? PSC? PSC?
Are you going to?
Yes, the number of visitors who arrive, mga ganon, attendance in the games, the estimated tourist revenues, etc.
The committee will ask the Philippine Sports Commission to submit a report to
Just
this
to
committee.
formalize it, pero ako ang feeling ko, ang gut feeling ko, it was a success. I mean,
Yes, correct, Mr. President.
masaya yung European players, from other countries, and even there, meron pala yan sila mga fans na following them para pala mga sports club yan. So, I saw the YouTube postings. They were happy, Mr. President. And
Mr. President, the Philippines held a successful hosting of the FIBA World Cup, which featured 32 nations, Mr. President. The Philippines finished with a ranking of 24, no? At nag-improve po tayo, which granted them a slot for the Olympic qualifying tournament for basketball. Ito po yung sinabi ko na meron pa tayong slim chance at Philippines. Pero may momentum tayo after winning the Asian Games. The Philippines also broke the record for the most attendance of a FIBA game, World Cup game in an indoor arena. Yung 38,115 fans inside the Philippine Arena last August 25 during the opening of FIBA World. Record-breaking po yun sa FIBA World. At nakita naman natin, Mr. President, pag well-organized po yung tournament, ang ganda po. Talagang well-prepared po yung organizers at we showcase the world how beautiful our country.
so on that high note, Mr. President, I terminate my interpellation and congratulate the sports family in the Philippines, led by the Philippine Sports Commission, the Games and Amusement Board. Congratulations for all of your achievements. I hope 2024 will also be a banner year for Philippine sports. Hindi naman kailangan gold medal lahat, but masaya. I mean, masaya tayo, and we're proud to participate. We're happy to participate, and we enjoy watching Filipinos participate, and we enjoy supporting them. So thank you to the sports family and also to our sponsor, Mr. President, for his patience. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat, and good luck for 2024.
Salamat, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank
Mr.
you to the
President.
minority leader.
Senator Cayetano and Senator Angara will no longer ask questions, Mr. President. And may I just put on the record my sincerest thanks and gratitude to the men and women behind Philippine Sports Commission and the Games and Amusement Board. We have been supporting these two agencies since time immemorial. I'd like to put on record, Mr. President, that I grew up idolizing basketball players, the likes of our chairperson, Richard Bachman. I remember watching them when I was in my elementary days, Mr. President. Kayo po pala ay college na noon, Mr. President. Binanggit niyo po kanina, kaklase niyo po si Chairman.
Classmate ko yan.
Yes,
Oo,
because my
classmate
cousin,
yan.
Mr. President, Bobby Jose, is also a member of the national team, RPU team, together with our chairman. And so I remember those days that I was watching them with Coach Jolipa, Benji Parash, and the others, Mr. President. So I just want to put that on record that we are in full support for the budget of Philippine Sports Commission and Games and Amusement Board. Mr. President, there being no other reservation for interpellation, I move that we close the period of interpellations and debate and consider the budget of the Games and Amusements Board and the Philippine Sports Commission to be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr. President.
Yes, also I'd like to echo the statement of the Majority Floor Leader. Congratulations, particularly to the Philippine Sports Commission, working closely with the POC for a successful FIBA event, as well as our Cambodia SEA Games, which we did, I think, very well. One of the best showings that we've had outside of the Philippines, and also the Asian Games. One of the best showing we've had outside of the Asian Games. So, I mean, outside the in the last Asian Games, last few Asian Games, if not in a very long time, that was the best showing that we've ever had. So, we're hoping that we can get lucky again in the Olympics. And this, as mentioned earlier, how many? 4, no? Are already sure. There's Marshall, Yumir, Obiena, our gymnast, Kaloy, and a martial artist, no? Who is that, Senator Bong?
Alaina, the gymnast, Carlos Yulo, EJ Obiena, and Yumir,
So far, 4 lang. 4.
4 pa po sa ngayon.
So boxing, konti lang. Only one was able to qualify so far. That's, oh well.
Mr. President, nakita niyo po yung pagsuportado ng NSA tulad ng Arnis. Nakita ko yung Senate President natin. Talagang pumunta ron, sinuportahan, full support.
Actually, me and my schoolmate were trying to work out na may Arnis sa Thailand. We're really trying our best to be able to have Arnis in the Thailand SEA Games. Because if we're successful in having Arnis in the Thai SEA Games, it will already be a permanent SEA Games sport. Kasi dapat 2 consecutive. Nangyari, when we played it here in 2019, binola tayo ng Vietnam na they'll play it in Vietnam, but they did not. I don't know for whatever reason. And fortunately, Cambodia hosted Arnis last year. So now we're hoping that if Thailand will host it, permanent na po yung Arnis, which is a source of medal. It's a medal haul for us. In the last Cambodian SEA Games, kung pwede po ako magyabang ng konti, we were the most be-medal team. Yeah, we got 6 golds, 2 silvers. Taekwondo kasi got 6 golds, 1 silver. Kami 6 golds, 2 silver, and the rest bronze. So, the highest percentage of medals for the Philippine team. So, Thailand sana muli. So we're praying and we're working together with the PSC. So again, congratulations as well to Gab. There being no objection to the motion of the Majority Floor Leader, the budgets of the Philippine Sports Commission, the Games and Amusements Board are deemed submitted. Congratulations to the 2 agencies. We can go straight na then just suspend session. Just suspend session.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, with the permission, I move that we suspend consideration.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Mr. President,
We'll elect the
I'd
members of the
rather
BICAM. Yes.
make a motion, Mr. President, with the permission of the body to proceed to the Senate President's designation of Senate conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill number 2221 and House Bill number entitled Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers. So move, Mr.
So let me
President.
act first on the first motion, which is to suspend the House Bill, the consideration of House Bill number 8980.
Yes, Mr. President.
There be no objection, motion is approved, suspended. We now are going to designate, with the permission of the body and no objection from the body, the following members are designated as Senate conferees of the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill number 2221 and House Bill number 7325. This is the Magna Carta for Seafarers. They are Senator Rafi Tulfo as chairperson, Senators Joel Villanueva, Senator Amy Marcos, Senator Chis Escudero, and Senator Risa Ontiveros on the part of the minority. So designated.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, time check 1:32 a.m. And with that, I move that we suspend our session today until today at 12 noon,
Until
Wednesday,
this
November
noon
15,
time.
2023. I so move, Mr. President.
And just put on record, of course, our thanks to the minority floor leader who is here present. Our Senator Sani Angara, chairperson of the committee, is present. Senator Joel Villanueva is here as well. Yours truly and all the staff and secretariat. And Senator Pia Cayetano is here, and Senator Bongo, I forgot, is there as well with us. Time check 1:33. There being no objection, the session is suspended until 12 noon Wednesday, November 15, 2023. Thank you very much, everybody.